So the primal brain is connected to the vagus nerve, which is connected to the heart, brain, and lungs. The vagus nerve is responsible for sending signals to your brain. If you're breathing right, if you're relaxed, if you're calm, this nerve sends a signal to your brain to say, okay, things are okay, we're fine, we're good, which later on makes and sharpens your prefrontal cortex because you're in a state of calmness, you're in a state of peace, and you're able to make decisions that are straightforward, intentional, and out of love, not out of fear. When we're in fight or flight, we're in a state of survival. We cannot create from fight or flight. We cannot function. We cannot be happy. We cannot live. We cannot experience beauty when we're in fight or flight. So I need you to understand that for as long as you don't acknowledge that your body puts itself in these places because of the way that you have experienced life, it will continue to get in your own way. You will continue to get in your own way through fear. So until you understand that this is where fear comes from, and we need to understand that fear is a way we have learned to perceive and see life. So if your primal brain, being your main instinct, is distorted, you will fear everything. You will be in a state of fight or flight or fawn. You will not act on your dreams. You will not act on the vision. You will not act even on the basic things that you need to just be happy. So I need all of us here to settle down and just take this in and to understand that we've been getting in our own ways because we haven't realized how, we are the ones getting in our own ways. There's no haters, there's none of that. You need to work on yourself to see these things about yourself because we're all different. I'm going to give an example of myself as I go through this series. But the prefrontal cortex, which is the secondary brain, which is responsible for all this beauty, for the artists and all the beauty in the world and the expression, it can only act based on the contents of your primal brain. So if your primal brain is messed up, everything's messed up. But then this is why I love this series, because we are going to get into how we can regulate our primal brain. How can we regulate? How can we take charge of this fear that we have no control over, of this fear that we didn't choose, of this way to survive that we had no control over because we were so young to make decisions about it? I am going to get into that, ways in which we can self-regulate and be aware of the times when we're acting out of survival than we are acting out of love, peace, and hope, and just beauty and passion. So we're going to get into the 7 ways that you can regulate your primal brain and sense fear, recognize fear, transmute it. The first way you can regulate your primal brain is by taking deep breaths. Deep breath is sign of life to your brain. Let's speak in code. Let's say your body speaks in code, because your body doesn't know how to explain all these things. Your body speaks in code, and breath is equals life to your brain. So when you're not experiencing regulated good breath, you're sending a signal to your body that there's danger outside. You're not in a position to breathe very well right now, which is why even with meditation and all these types of healing, they recommend breathing, because breathing is the first way we communicate with our body. It was there before language, before music, before everything. The first thing we as human beings did was breathe. So breathe. You need to breathe. Send signals to your body that you're okay, nothing is happening, you're cool, you're chilling. That's why you need to breathe. That's why it's important to breathe, actually, because it's very important. It's the essence of life. The essence of life is to breathe. So after you learn how to breathe, just check yourself. You notice that a lot of people who grew up in environments that had high risk or high danger, they don't know how to breathe. I had to realize my breathing was a little off because I had very short breaths. Sometimes I'd catch myself shallow breathing. Sometimes I'd catch myself not even breathing at all, especially when I'm overthinking. I realized every time I was overthinking, I was not breathing. I had to start being aware of all these little things. Every time I was overthinking, I noticed I wasn't breathing. Anytime I was panicking, I wasn't breathing. So I had to start regulating my breath, and it helped just send a signal to my nervous system that everything is okay. The second thing is we have to start learning how to name our emotions. When you feel an emotion, you have to name the emotion, because when you don't name the emotion, it'll keep coming back because it's just trying to give you a human experience. Like we said, emotions are from the limbic system, which is part of the survival primal brain. So if that part of your body sends you a signal like, boom, hey, this is how we feel, and you don't deal with it, you just let it go, it gets stored in your body, in your brain, and it's going to keep coming back until you get the signal. That's what your prefrontal cortex is for. It translates those signals further. So if you are self-aware and your prefrontal it's chilling, it's cool, you're able to translate your emotions better, which is why it's important to be self-aware, and it's important to name your emotions, because when you name your emotions, you're making it easy for your brain to get through that process and through that experience. Naming your emotions is important because it also just teaches you what exactly you feel. Like I said, sometimes fear is misinterpreted with excitement, and a lot of more emotions are misinterpreted with others. And that's why we need to learn how to name our emotions, because it puts us in a place where we're aware of what we're doing, what we're going through, what we feel, and we are in more control of how we react to these feelings.